Abusiami wa kwaba eroba daily update TV so ene na ohwe dwumedi na na subscribe me cha like na share. Abusiami ndi nkomo ebi wa se nyina be kai eye ECG scandal emre bi atwamu ebaya na jese Ghana for discuss no na omo pese omo update said ye ko na abusiami ECG no ye ka se ECG aye Ghana Electricity Company na ni nyina ne say ye hwe omo di dwuma wo ho wa bra mixing ECG containers by na je say NPP for ka container na dane ataban 2 NDC for all sort of alleges na abusuya na Ghana for follow ya say omo pe update the mixing containers into update be ba say omo hu the remaining mixing containers na ni nyina ne say Afenyo markets ye dwuma ho na po dwuma ho Afenyo eche oye boche wo hope nti se ehu kesi bi aba obibo bi se ehu ben na aba abusuani nyina ne se eye attorney general eche se odinsem no aba court because former energy minister John Jenapo echima omodinsem na koma attorney general wode ebe court nti anybody who find as a corporate no obe face law enye political hunting but or say taxpayers' money, no. Everybody who is involved must account for it. So me say me could take briefly. Ever credit my TV3. Na same TV3 no. Ma mi to konu nsem no. Update no. Eye petroleum CEO. Eye lawyer Eduji Tamaklu. My update. Ewo ho how tokonu efale and how it ended no. Ebusuanti we update briefly yeah the amount about mixing ECG containers no Afenyo any warm or more nyina ehu kese bia ere atom so ebusuan enkotie ensem no emreze.
Some containers belonging to ECG were reported missing. Some months down the line, the ministry has accounted for some 2,600 with 1,500 cleared from the port so far. In the award of this contract, John Abdullah Jinapo questioned why a board threshold of 3 billion cedis bloated to 9 billion cedis. The energy minister was emphatic that persons found culpable would be prosecuted.
The taxpayers' money must be accounted for. Nobody would allow this in his or her company. We shouldn't have been there. If ECG was your company and you were the shareholder and you invested money in it, and your management came to tell you that they've awarded contracts about 9 billion, when the board approved contracts for just about 3 billion. It's been a very, very difficult task. But like I said, we should never go that path again. And as minister, I will not tolerate that. If it happened in the past, it must not happen today. We've handed the full document to the Attorney General. He's studying it. And if people are found culpable, I'm very confident that the law will take its course. We are not victimizing anybody. We are doing what is right and what is proper.
Managing Director of ECG, Julius Pepena, said the power distributor has managed to keep the lights on and also cut unnecessary expenditure.
We are well on the way to spending significantly below the approved budget this year. I have been in ECG and associated with ECG for over 30 years, but this will be the first time ECG is spending below the budget.
John Jinapo also engaged management and staff of Water River Authority VRA, where he disclosed the need to acquire more power plant for VRA, but at affordable and competitive prices.
Demand is increasing, and demand is projected to hit about 8,000 by 2040 thereabouts. Are we going to bring IPPs to fill that 4,000 megawatts gap? And are we going to pass all that cost onto the consumer? We certainly cannot do that.
We also will ask that you support us to also increase our portfolio as the demand of the country increases, so that we may at least have about 75 to 85% of the installed capacity of this country to continue to support the economy of this country and also to ensure we have a reliable power for the country.
Meanwhile, Ghana is saving in excess of $300 million after renegotiation deals with
is grounding her argument on that the thing against her about the misappropriation of the said funds is false, misleading, irrational, and illegal, because It cites misconduct for expenditure that was neither disallowed nor surcharged by the Auditor General, to the extent that the Auditor General did not raise queries about this. In her view, it's irrational and illegal for you to even use that as a basis for her removal. Also, that this same first finding of misappropriation is also unreasonable and unfair because it attributes unauthorized expenditure to the Chief Justice, though she neither authorized nor administered it. So she's not a spending officer. The second finding is an abuse of power and unconstitutional as it wrongly treats the Chief Justice's lawful administrative duty, and this has to do with the transfer of judges. Under Article 1254, including the transfer of judges and officers as misconduct. It says, the third finding is an abuse of power and unconstitutional as it mischaracterizes the Chief Justice's legitimate role under Article 1254 and established conventions in judicial administration as misconduct. And in fact, it says it's also unlawful, challenges the Chief Justice's conventional role shared with the Ghana Bar Association Attorney General in recommending the promotion of judges. This is the position of the former Chief Justice and what she is seeking in this particular relief, the latest. I saw this path with Godwin Eduji Tamaklo because this is not the first time we're having to lay a matter of a judicial review by the former Chief Justice. There are some who hold the view that this continuous application is an abuse of the court process. Others are of the view that, look, to the extent that this is unprecedented, all these applications must be allowed so as to tick all the boxes, bring clarity, form a strong precedence so that we'll see how the days and years ahead will look like. Before you answer that, let me acknowledge Bracco Powers is a private legal practitioner as well joining us. So Powers, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Okay.
Perfect. Wait, okay.
I'm not surprised that now removed Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono had decided to file this judicial review application. I'm not surprised at all.
Why doesn't it surprise you?
The reason is simple. You see, Alfred, as young as I am, there are certain things that when you are advised and you decide to do otherwise, it goes against you. Look, in the midst of these petitions, two prominent Ghanaians said, look, I recall vividly, the argument was made. The Constitution says, and the Supreme Court has clarified the issue, that once an Article 146 process has commenced, you do not have the option of resigning. At that time, there was a strong push that, hey, Justice Tokono had worked High Court, Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. And therefore, that matter, for her service to this republic, she should be permitted to resign and take her emolument. So she can go. At least when she resigns, she is entitled to her benefits. Just when they were waiting for that, from nowhere, she decided to do a judicial process, somersault. I think today, she's come to the realization that she ought to have resigned instead of allowing the process to go through.
She said that was not on the table.
Please, I know, and for this privileged information, I cannot even name the people.
Amariba also came and said it.
Look, two prominent people.
And we supported it here. Remember, you were the
I was opposed to it. You said, look,
yes.
It should be allowed, even though the Supreme Court, because what had happened was that there was a High Court judge who Article 146 process has started against him. Yeah. Then President Newz was in the process of putting the committee together. The CJ then, Georgina Wood, started the process. Then the judge, knowing that if that Article 146 committee concludes its work, he stands the risk of losing his entitlement, quickly tendered in his resignation. So the question was whether President Newz was bound to accept the resignation. And the Supreme Court interpreted the matter and said, once an Article 146 process had commenced, there is no option. If not, you defeat the very purpose of Article 146. But you see, we are back to this point because her ladyship, the Chief Justice, now removed. Options are completely gone. Completely gone. The options are gone. Let's look at the legal issues now. I've gone through the judicial review processes and the attachment. I spent yesterday reading through it. Now, if you look at the grounds of the judicial review, and if you look at the things and the reliefs that she is seeking, you come to one irresistible conclusion. An appeal of the Puaman-led committee and its work disguised as a judicial review.
It's appealing.
It's an appeal, but disguised as a judicial review application. But you see, as lawyers, we have the skill set to uncover and to unwrap these wraps that she had put on the processes. Because essentially what she's saying is that the Puaman-led committee had done its work, but I disagree with their findings and the conclusions reached and their recommendations. And for that matter, I want a high court to have a second bite. That is not allowed by law.
After she has been removed.
Yes. That is not allowed by law. And the reason is simple. The wisdom of the framers of the 1992 Constitution, they didn't want an Article 146 proceedings to be appealable. Did was that when is a commission of inquiry under Article 2, Ghana at 50 or days, you have the right of appeal. So finality is not in the work of that committee. It can be judicially reviewed or through a high court intervention. So in this case, what you do is that you allow the high court when it comes to a commission of inquiry, but here you go to the court of appeal. And that is why for lawyers we say an appeal is a creature of statute.
Right.
There must be a statute that creates that right. Now, when she looked at the option, she realized that no, there is no right of appeal envisaged under Article 146. So by legal ingenuity, try to come out with a judicial review, but to achieve the same end of an appeal. Because in an appeal, we say appeal is by way of rehearing. And so if you look at her relief, what she is seeking is to have a high court judge now sit and say, okay, the Puaman-led committee, you have done your work, but to my mind as a judge, you were not fair to talk on. Basically, to have that high court judge now sit in judgment over the Puaman-led committee, that is unconstitutional. That is constitutional lawlessness. Complete constitutional lawlessness.
You describe this as
complete constitutional lawlessness and should not be entertained.
So she's accepting
let me tell you. If you look at grounds 1 and 2, reliefs 1, 2, 3, and 4, what she's doing is to say that the committee says I'm not fit and proper by reason of the findings of stated misbehavior. To my mind, I am fit and proper to hold the office of Chief Justice. What you must understand is that under our Constitution, there is only one set of group or a group of people who can make that determination. Not even the Supreme Court. It is only the committee set up under Article 146. And so, in the year 1994, the Ghana Bar Association decided to test that fitness question in the Supreme Court in what is known as the Urban case. The Ghana Bar Association versus the Attorney General, popularly called the Urban case. What was it about? President General Rawlings had then made Urban the Chief Justice. The Ghana Bar Association quickly issued a writ at the Supreme Court. In that writ, all they were seeking to say is that Justice Urban does not meet the constitutional threshold of becoming a Chief Justice. What they wanted to do through the back door is to trigger Article 146 proceedings by using a writ of summons. Justice Pega, Ajabi and co. saw through the rules and said, hey, please. You are afraid of Article 146 proceedings. So essentially what you want to do is to use the writ action under Article 2 to basically achieve the same outcome. We will not permit you. And if you read the judgment of the Supreme Court in the Urban case, my Lord Justice Pega had this to say. He said, look, as lawyers, as the creme de la creme of the legal profession, we expect better from you. And that, listen, the reason for Article 146 and its in-camera proceedings is to preserve and protect the independence of the judiciary and not turn an Article 146 proceedings into a tier like it usually happens in the courtroom. Now, what essentially now removed Chief Justice is doing is that if she successfully triggers the jurisdiction of the judicial review jurisdiction of the high, what she's doing is to put the Puaman committee, which otherwise is supposed to be in camera, to now an open conversation. That is where the constitutional lawlessness is. Because now that she had filed, if you respond to it, you have to come and do a merit review of the work of the committee.
But you're essentially questioning the basis for her removal.
Exactly. And so the committee's work is supposed to be in camera. Now, immediately you put it out in the court. Court proceedings are not in camera proceedings.
To strengthen your argument, but the Supreme Court in the Derry case said after it's over, they should release it. No, it's broken.
No, I'm coming. So the point that we all need to appreciate is that in the wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, they did not make the work of the committee under Article 146 a subject of judicial review. The judicial review powers, and either in CI 47 or the Constitution itself, to the High Court, does not include the workings of the Article 146 committee. And the policy rationale is to preserve the in-camera status of the committee. Because you see, at this point, if she succeeds in her action in triggering the jurisdiction of the High Court, what it means is that the AG by law would have to file affidavit in opposition. And in that affidavit in opposition, depose to the fact that the committee's work and whatever were all fair. So what it means is that you have to bring the works of the committee before the judge.
And in fact, there's been calls to the extent that the committee has finished and submitted a report.
Finality.
That report should be made public.
Yeah, no. The Supreme Court itself says so.
Look, just say, and someone briefly, and you could say about mixing ECG containers. Na ni na etoko no ohwe article 14 article 146 na article 146 ne echema yenye law there, but according to law no procedure ne chema the president no every receive petition na say or receive petition a omo money so the petition be ma the council of state na Council of State ebekom na omahwehwe eye petition mo enti omo be determine bi friend prima facie say omo determine prima facie case then the president proceed on to set up a committee enti committee no ehona na ebe investigations prima facie na determine no so with the constitutional chairman the president shall establish a committee into establish a committee no refer assembly mo so omo investigate prima facie case omo determine abusua the issue ni say omo findings no omo findings omo benya aye ni nyina be say okay and long last no and long last no omo recommendation and the president will act on it enti ma me to no still akofale say wonte asem na say wonte asem na say enti na busua ni nyina ne say asem na kopie mu high court ni nyina so omo nkwahye the vetting process a omo de be vete eye yewraba for boni na waba be eye the chief justice no enti no all seek the high court authority legal process omo be hote the vetting eye process no na so omo be kwahye in other words say omo nya de omo ntwensan abusua be de ensem no nyina be de ebesia share dwumade no na like for comment no ebra megibre na makenkan comment no adwenkyere no na onso wa hu said etie me do we see assistate